Before we get started here today, I just want to send out my condolences to the friends and family of Wyndham Rotunda and Terry Funk, two people who have truly changed the landscape of the wrestling business. Their impact will be remembered forever, forever, forever. So now, let's plug in. This September is jam-packed for me, so I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible because I have a lot to talk about. And we start September 3rd, that is Sunday in beautiful Havre de Grace, Maryland State Theater for Limelight 20. There, you will see Rich Swann defend the CZW Championship against Fred Yeha. CMD defends the Tag Championships against Milk Chocolate. Griffin McCoy versus Vinny Tolada in a number one contenders match. Mike Walker versus Miles Hawkins. Jared Diaz takes on Erica Demia. Get your tickets now at czwrestling.com. On Thursday, September 7th, we ask you to join us over on the High Tension Wrestling YouTube channel for the premiere of Midsummer Nightmare. Midsummer Nightmare was a hard-hitting, insane event that took place in Brooklawn, New Jersey, and we want you to catch all the action with us as we tweet along live. So join us on the High Tension Wrestling YouTube channel and see matches like CC Boost versus Max Zero in a Brooklawn street fight. Sonny DeFarge takes on his own student Brian Ace in an I Quit match. And the spoiler takes on Scott Holiday in a Rhode Island no barbed wire match. We'll explain it in the show. So be sure to join us on September 7th. September 10th at the Elks Lodge, number 2119. That's 1500 Brooks Boulevard in Hillsborough, New Jersey. It is Combat Fights Unlimited. And there, it is the rematch we've been waiting for. These two enter the cage one more time as Masha Slamovich defends against Jordan Blade. They tore the house down last time. Let's see what happens when they square up once again. So join us for CFU. All tickets are 100% free. We then go back to the land of black and yellow as it is time for a bloody tradition. It is the land of ultraviolence. It is Tournament of Death 20 years of ultra violence. That takes place September 23rd. Bell time is at 2 p.m. So join us at 179 Ebenezer Church Road in Townsend, Delaware. Now, we do not know the matchups yet, but we do know some of the people who will be involved. The return of last year's victor, Bobby Beverly, along with Big Effin' Joe, or Invite, will be once again crawling into the combat zone. We will see Judge Joe Dredd, who's very upset he didn't inflict punishment at Twisted Metal this year. Then we have the godmother of deathmatch wrestling, Mickey Knuckles, once again returns to the tournament. Slack enters Tournament of Death, and the protagonist of professional wrestling, that's right, Kid Bandit, will be at Tournament of Death. You do not want to miss this one. Head to czwrestling.com to get your tickets for September 23rd. Once again, that is 179 Ebenezer Church Road in Townsend, Delaware. Then on Saturday, September 30th at 3:30 p.m. at 1301 South Christopher Columbus Boulevard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, It is the HTW Super Show. 4 companies combining to make the biggest show in Philadelphia professional wrestling. That is Smashmaster, High Tension, CFU, and Orochi. Each company will be putting on a series of matches. It's going to be a great afternoon of wrestling. And I'm happy to announce that Smashmaster is putting on the Think Tank versus Team Smashmaster in a trios match. And in our main event, we have Mike Skyros defending the High Tension Wrestling TV Championship against the Kingdom's Matt Taven. Matt Taven's been making his name in AEW and in ROH and now in HTW. You don't want to miss this one, so join us September 30th for the Super Show. So today on the Soapbox, I want to revisit something I talked about a few episodes ago. I talked about what was the best and the worst stipulation match in all of professional wrestling. And I made it very clear what a stipulation was. It's something added to a one-on-one contest, which now begs the question, what is the best and worst multi-man match? And once again, the original idea of this video was to rank each and every match, and I realized that nobody cares about the middle. They want to know what the best is, and they want to know what the worst is. Nobody wants to hear that the triple threat match is the middlest multi-man match. So we are going to crown the best and the worst multi-man match in professional wrestling. So we have to start off with some criteria. What makes a good or bad multi-man match? Well, first and foremost, it needs to have multiple wrestlers, which means it is more than a one-on-one contest, which should be obvious, but it's a little bit trickier than you might think. Because when I try to think of the best multi-man match, I flash back to TLC, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian. A magnificent trade wreck and cacophony of violence that just fills old Scott Holliday's heart with joy. But the problem with that is, it doesn't need to be a multi-man match. As a matter of fact, we've seen various singles TLC matches. Remember, Cena and Orton had one to combine the titles. Edge and Cena had one. Edge had one with Ric Flair on like a Raw, which was super weird. So while it is better, in my opinion, as a multi-man match, it doesn't have to be a multi-man match. So anything that could logically become a singles match has to be disqualified. So, for example, let's take the Elimination Chamber. Now, could we put the Elimination Chamber around the ring and have a one-on-one match? Absolutely. But would it be an Elimination Chamber match still? No. No, it wouldn't. But let's say we hang above the ring a briefcase, and then 2 individuals need to climb that ladder and pull down that briefcase. I think that is still a Money in the Bank match. Which means the Money in the Bank ladder match is disqualified from this list. It hurts my heart to say it too, but that is the criteria for these matches. Criteria number 2, it has to raise the stakes in some way. This is something we talked about with the other video, but this one's a little bit easier in that there are very few multi-person matches that lower the stakes by adding more people to it. So basically what I'm saying is it needs to be more exciting. The more exciting it is, the higher it is going to be on this list. That probably didn't need to be said, but now I've said it. And finally, and this is important, the match needs to be something that we can arrive at logically. We have a champion, and we don't know who is the number 1 contender for that championship. The problem is, there are 6 people that really have a good argument on why they should be the #1 contender. So you know what we should do? We should have a 6-pack challenge. 4 people on the outside, 2 legal competitors in the ring, and you can tag out to whoever you want. The person who scores the pinfall is the winner. That is pretty logical. I can get behind that. We have a champion. We need a contender. There are 6 people who have a logical argument for this. We should build a giant chain dome around them. And 2 people should start. And then we should lock the other 4 in plexiglass boxes. And then randomly, every 5 minutes, we're going to open one of them. And this just happens until everyone gets pinned except for one person. Yeah, and there's no escape because there's steel chains surrounding the entire ring. And then when someone gets pinned, we're going to open a door that is bigger than any door I've ever seen in my life. So we can let the body roll out. And then we're going to pull it back down and close it. So in the logic scale, the 6-pack challenge is much higher than the elimination chamber. But on the excitement scale, they switch. So ideally, the best one will be up here on both levels. It will make sense and be exciting. And the worst does neither of those. And finally, and this is a big one, the match must do what it promises to do at least most of the time. I said this before when we were talking about the strap match. The strap match makes the promise every time that 2 men will be bound together with a leather strap and beat the hell out of each other until one is just a carcass to be dragged around the ring as the winner touches all 4 turnbuckles. And then what happens? A tug of war for 5 minutes. I hate the strap match. Again, I did a whole video about it. For this list, we also have to follow that criteria. If a match makes a promise, it must come through on that promise at least most of the time. Let's talk about War Games. War Games promises that 5 or 4 people on each team will collide against each other in a brutal 2-ring cage match until one team simply cannot continue. And that happens most of the time. Sure, there's the occasion where somebody turns on their team or someone gets injured and can't quite make it into the cage. And those little twists are acceptable because they are not the norm. They're not what happens every time we have one of these matches. That's okay. It's coming through on the promise at least most of the time. The worst multi-person match. Now, if you watched the previous video, I say that the worst multi-person match is the lumberjack match. And I stand by that the lumberjack match is one of the worst matches. I remember the first time I ever saw a lumberjack match, it ended with a smudge where all the lumberjacks jumped in and fought each other. And as a child, I just said, oh, we should never have this match again. This isn't good. It causes way too many problems. And if that's what 9-year-old Scott Holiday was saying, just seeing the faults in this, then yeah, it's a bad match. But here's the thing. It's not really a multi-man match. Yeah, there's other people involved, but the Lumberjacks can't win. It is as much of a multi-person match as a special guest referee match. It's like, yeah, they're usually not there, but now they're there. But it's still just a match between 2 people. So actually, based on my criteria, we have to disqualify the lumberjack match. So, what is the worst multi-man match? Now, I also did do a whole video about how War Games is the worst match in wrestling. And I do stand by that there's a lot of issues with War Games. However, with the criteria that I have put forth, it can get to a point where there are groups of people that hate each other so much that they need to have a huge match, and they're going to need extra room, so it makes sense that we need 2 cages and we need to contain them in a large cage. And my major problem with it is the entrance order, that we take so long for the whole teams to get in there. And then the rule states, the match officially begins when both teams are fully in the ring. So technically, I can't judge it on that first part. I can only judge it after both teams are fully in the ring. And that part's pretty good. So it will not be the worst multi-person match by far. Now, I think it would be foolish of me not to look to TNA. The King of the Mountain match is some lunacy. It is a reverse ladder match where you need to hang the title up by climbing a ladder and getting to the hook with the title. But you're not allowed to do that right away. No, you first you gotta pin somebody. And if you pin someone, they get locked into a cage for like 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes. And unlike what happened with the Money in the Bank ladder match, you really can't have a one-on-one King of the Mountain match because there would be a pinfall. They would be locked in a cage for 2 minutes, and then you have 2 minutes to just kind of dance around and do whatever you want before hanging up the title. So it is required to be a multi-person match. That being said, it's still a ladder match, which is kind of fun. I think hanging the title is unnecessary. I think the image of pulling the belt down is much better than hanging the belt up. But overall, it's still a fun ladder match where lots of things can happen. It is definitely a better version of the Iron Survival match, which is basically the same thing, except with pinfalls instead of a ladder and with a time limit. It's like a King of the Mountain Iron Man Royal Rumble. It's too confusing to explain, which takes a lot of points away from it. But I did just say reverse ladder match. That does lead to a very famous reverse match. And that is, of course, the Reverse Battle Royal. There is nothing more illogical than the idea that you are unable to get into a ring. That is the thing you've been doing for years if you're a professional wrestler. The idea that it would take more than a few moments to get, 8 people over the top rope and into the ring so the Battle Royal part of the Reverse Battle Royal can start? That's ridiculous. But it then just becomes a Battle Royal, and Battle Royals are great. Over-the-top Battle Royals are always fun. They're a great way to end or begin an indie show, for sure. And then when they get down to 2, it's a one-on-one match, and one-on-one matches are fine. It's no longer a multi-man match, though. There are a lot of reasons to hate the Reverse Battle Royal, but there's a lot of excuses as well on why it should not be the worst. And I talk about how illogical that first third of the match is. The idea that you can't get your body over the top rope. But what if we have a match that is completely illogical? From start to finish, it never makes sense, and it never does really what it promises. And on top of that, it's a match type that happens over and over and over again. And I swear to you, it is a match you are never excited to hear be announced. My pick for the worst multi-person match in professional wrestling is the handicap match. Yes, the handicap match. If you don't know, a handicap match is a simple tag team affair where the teams are uneven. It could be 1-on-2, 2-on-3, 1-on-5, some sort of unfair team advantage. As someone who's been watching wrestling for quite some time, I have never in my life thought, awesome, handicap match. This is gonna be great. The handicap matches fail in many respects. One, it could just be a tag team match where the teams are even. I know, crazy idea. 2, they don't exist to really create a good match. The storyline beats of a handicap match are usually punishment for some undeserving babyface. The babyface then has to overcome extreme odds and outdo the other team, even though there's more people on that team. And you know what? That's usually what happens. If we're sticking to the rule that it needs to promise something and deliver on it at least most of the time, the promise of the handicap match is usually the team that is handicapped has to overcome something way bigger than the other team. So thus, the other team should win 90% of the time because there's more dudes over there. 3 people should be able to beat 2 people or even 1 person. But that's not usually what happens. Usually the babyface overcomes the odds and defeats the team of more people. And it often doesn't feel good. Like, there was a pay-per-view where CM Punk alone took on The Shield. Do you remember that? He made Roman look really strong. But despite this, he beat The Shield. This is a trio of people who ran roughshod over the WWE. There was a whole thing that no team could defeat The Shield because they were the best trio out there. Something about them as a unit could not be defeated unless you're CM Punk alone. The logic of this match is immediately thrown out the window when one person could beat 3 people who logically should be able to hold their own against CM Punk alone. And that's the problem with the handicap match, is you go in hoping and expecting that what should happen doesn't happen. And when what should happen does happen, it doesn't feel good either. That exact same pay-per-view, Daniel Bryan fought the Wyatt family 3-on-1. And Daniel Bryan lost. And he should have. Because Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, Eric Rowan are 3 people that should be able to have a competitive one-on-one match with Daniel Bryan. So the 3 of them as a unit against one GOAT, they should win every time. But instead of it feeling logical, it kind of just felt like a waste of time. Of course they won. There's 3 of them. So where's the excitement in that? In one pay-per-view, we saw both sides of the coin, and neither of them are good. Which is why the handicap match is the worst multi-person match. The best multi-person match. Now, if you go back and watch my stipulation video, I also say what I believe is the best multi-person match. And I say that that match is the Royal Rumble. 30 men all competing for the World Championship opportunity at WrestleMania, or 30 women all competing for a chance at WrestleMania. You get to start feuds, you get to revisit feuds, you get to bring people in from the past, people up who are going to be stars of the future. It's always amazing. It might be my favorite match every year. But, based on the criteria, is it the best match? Is it logical? I talked about the Elimination Chamber and the idea of there being 6 people who could logically be the number 1 contender. Has there ever been a Royal Rumble where there were 30 people in it and all of them could justifiably call themselves the number 1 contender? Absolutely not. There is always some filler spots and jobber spots, and that's kind of the joy of the Royal Rumble. But it does take away of the logic of the Royal Rumble. And the rules of the Royal Rumble are very clearly laid out. If you've never seen a by the numbers video, then I envy you. That's 48 big shows. Sorry. The Royal Rumble is based off of this idea of luck and lottery. Getting the number 30 entry, a huge advantage. And yet, there's not as many winners in the late numbers as it is the early numbers. By my count, the number 30 has only won 3 times, if I'm counting correctly. Meanwhile, the number 1 is up to 4, I believe. Michaels, Benoit, Rhea Ripley, and Edge recently. So that's 4. And honestly, the number 1 spot also has the same odds as the number 2 spot, which Mr. McMahon won from, and Rey Mysterio. 6 winners from the first 2 numbers. That doesn't make any sense. Plus, think about all the other things they say to kind of sell the Royal Rumble to you. The Big Show is the biggest competitor in there. How will someone be able to throw out such a big man? It happens every year. On top of that, if you go back, the Big Show has never been group eliminated. He's always been eliminated by one person. Now that's something that should be in the By the Numbers video. And they always say it's the ultimate opportunity. Anyone could win. Just once? I'd like to see that. Could you imagine a Royal Rumble? You bring in all these big stars, Cody, Gunther, Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura, all battling through, all these legends coming back. Oh my God, Diamond Dallas Page is here, Goldberg, The Rock. Everyone is vying for that championship opportunity, and somehow Angel Garza wins. Anything can happen in the Royal Rumble. But usually there's only about 4 people who can win the Royal Rumble, and those are the people who win. It doesn't come through on all of its promises, so I can't give it the top spot here. I've talked a lot about the Elimination Chamber. I think the Elimination Chamber is a great match. It is truly Satan's playground. It always delivers some hard-hitting insanity. But you remember the Intercontinental title one? That one really put a damper on the Elimination Chamber as a whole. It just left a bad taste in my mouth. And just because of that match, I'm not giving it to that one. I'm just not doing it. No, I picked something else. And I think the obvious choice is the tag team match. 2 teams going at it. You got to make a hand-to-hand tag for your partner to become legal. 1 pinfall to the finish. Simple, elegant, makes sense, can happen all the time. But then the answer might be, well, what is a tag match plus? Is the best match Survivor Series? Survivor Series never really makes sense either. Because Survivor Series, you usually have teams of 4 or 5, and there's usually a main event with a bunch of superstars that, usually wrestle 45 minutes before they get pinned. And then one of them gets pinned in like moments. Like, there's always that break of an illusion of these are people who are at the top of their game, yet one of them's going to lose to a schoolboy in 3 minutes. They're going to be eliminated faster than the entrances were. You know how that happens every year? So I had to take Survivor Series out for that. As much as I love the tag team match, I'm going to actually put that at number 2. I think the tag team match is perfect. It's a fantastic use of a multi-person match, but I have a very suspicious number 1. Something that I think people will argue with me against, but every time I see it, it raises the stakes, and it always does what it promises, 100% of the time. You might not even think of it as a multi-man match, but it most certainly is. The most exciting, the best multi-person match is Beat the Clock. The Beat the Clock challenge is very simple. You have 2 people fighting. When they win the match, a timer appears on how long it took for them to earn that victory. A second match then happens, and they're trying to beat the clock. Can you win that match faster than the previous match? While they might not be directly fighting against one another, they are competing against one another. And when you do a Beat the Clock, they usually have lots of reasons to do it. It might be looking for a number 1 contender. It might be earning that last spot in the Elimination Chamber. It might be getting an advantage in the Royal Rumble. But Beat the Clock makes every match more exciting. Like, if you take a match with, sorry to keep picking on you, Angel Garza and have him fight, I don't know, Bobby Lashley, you're pretty sure who's going to win that match. That's going to be a victory for Bobby Lashley. But Seth Rollins just beat Humberto Carrillo in 6 minutes. Can Bobby do it faster? Now everything is a little bit more exciting. Angel Garza runs away for the first minute. That's a lot of time off the clock. Angel Garza is able to kick out. That's a lot of time off the clock. Bobby's getting frustrated. Angel Garza is able to hit a schoolboy roll-up for a 2 count. We could believe that maybe Angel Garza would steal one because Bobby's a little frustrated. And in the final seconds, Bobby locks in that hurt lock. Can Angel Garza hang on? We know that there's no escape from the hurt lock, and we know Angel Garza's going to tap. But will he tap in 10 seconds? Or will he tap in 15 seconds? All those little things make every moment of that match a little bit better. I think Beat the Clock is easily the best multi-person match, and it's a shame we don't see more of them because it adds excitement to any matchup. It always delivers what it promises, and there's lots of reasons to have a Beat the Clock match, and it usually gives opportunities to people you won't normally see on the card. So that's why I'm putting at the top of the mountain, Beat the Clock. Am I crazy? Do you think there is a better multi-person match than Beat the Clock, or a worse multi-person match than the handicap match? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell because I don't upload consistently, so you need a notification for when I drop a new episode. And I hope you have a great day.